It's an honor to be here. I'd like to start really quick with a story. So, a high-risk individual approaches me, 50 years old, obese, type 1 diabetic, calls me, I have COVID. This was about a year ago. What do I do? Help, help, I'm going to the ER, my oxygen's 86. I have excruciating pain in my lungs. So I said, you're going to the pharmacy, don't go to the ER. I called in some early treatment medications of the drugs which shall not be named. Said individual calls me a couple hours later and says, you know that excruciating 9 out of 10 lung pain, it's now 2 out of 10, 6 hours later. Well, I know the mechanisms of the medication I prescribed. A few hours later, in the next morning, he calls me, he says, you know that oxygen saturation of 86, it's now 98%. I said, isn't that fantastic? Early treatment works. That individual is my brother. I am my brother's keeper. Now, this virus we have known, as much as we've been told it's a novel virus. Viruses are novel. This is 80% similar to a virus we experienced 2 decades ago. There's not a whole lot novel about this, other than the fact that a few sequences are different. But we're physicians and scientists, and we understand virology. We understand how disease works. So an upper respiratory infection, a virus, will replicate in the body for only about a week. At that point, you only have residual parts of the virus. So these tests that pick up, oh, you're positive still, you're positive still. No, those are the car parts, not the car anymore. So we have a week of intervention to where we can maybe try to intervene and stop the viral replication. Beyond that, we're really just spitting in the wind. Beyond that, then the virus and the phase of the disease becomes an inflammatory one, and we know with this particular disease, a clotting one. Well, in medicine for eons, we have known how to treat inflammation and clotting. So the simple construct or the simple concept that there's nothing we can do, go home, let your lips turn blue, is a false construct. It just takes the will to say, we're smart individuals. I sit here with an esteemed team of bipartisan colleagues from all walks of medicine and politics and life that are highly intelligent, that know how to treat a simple upper respiratory infection and the things, the sequelae that happen after the virus is replicated. So yes, I am my brother's keeper. Yes, I am a scientist. Yes, you're privileged, and I'm honored to be in a room of such intelligent people that know that there is treatment for this disease. Early treatment saves lives. Thank you. This is an excellent question. We have a new virus right now, Omicron. It has nothing. If you look at your family tree and you see the funny uncle that really doesn't look like the family and maybe the milkman came along somewhere, that's what Omicron is. Okay, he's not on the family tree. He probably actually snuck into the family somewhere. So it doesn't branch off of the other variants. Omicron has enough mutations. The backbone of it actually looks more like a pre-Wuhan virus from a genetic point of view. It is behaving like a common cold to the point of what Dr. Urso said earlier. It doesn't bind in the lungs like the previous variants did. It doesn't cause the degree of clotting that the scary earlier variants did. We have been blessed with almost a natural vaccine. It is essentially, now if you had COVID and you're COVID recovered, you tend to get less disease with Omicron symptomologically. However, we are finding that those who have gotten the shots are getting Omicron. The vaccines are negatively effective, meaning you're actually getting Omicron at an enhanced higher rate. Now, there's a reason for this, and this is basic immunology. If you get a shot in your arm, you don't have a tendency to, everybody hears about antibodies, but there's a special kind in your tears, your nose, your mouth, called secretory IgA. It's little mops in your tears. If you've had a natural infection, you have high levels of secretory IgA, these little mops in your mucosal membranes, and that mops up virus quickly. The virus, the response from the vaccine, you don't get this physiologically. So we are seeing actually the vaccinated carry a high volume of virus because they don't have this secretory IgA. So this false construct from our federal agencies that this is a pandemic and the unvaccinated are spreading is a pathophysiologic lie. The vaccinated are carrying high volumes in their nose, their tears, their mouth of virus, because the vaccine does not neutralize in that location of the body where the virus comes in. So this is very important. This is why mandates are absolutely now moot, irrelevant, and out the window, and need to go away worldwide like most of the world has done already. This is the funny uncle. This is not SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19. This is COVID-22 meh, you know?
So it may not even be a variant of the coronavirus. This might be a naturally occurring, may not even be a variant of the coronavirus.
It's a coronavirus, no doubt.
But not of the coronavirus. No.
It's
We don't know.
essentially, it's going to be a more of a common cold like the other ones you just correctly mentioned that have circulated for decades and years that we've known in the human body. That's part of the reason why many of us didn't get very sick, because we've had those common colds and that good T-cell innate immunity, the ability to say, yeah, I've had a lot of corona common colds, my body can fight this off. You're likely asymptomatic because as you travel the world, you probably had some of those. So yeah, again, this is that funny uncle that doesn't belong. This is a blessing to humanity. The frail, the fragile, the comorbid die of common colds every year, no matter what common cold it may be. So we still need to be cognizant of those things. Do some of the early treatments still work against this and make your symptoms less? Absolutely. Is your risk of death from this one far less? Absolutely. Is your risk from hospitalization far less? Absolutely. Is South Africa opened back up? I've talked to my colleagues there. They're like, absolutely, it's common cold. What a blessing, we're done. We need to do the same. Because of that furin cleavage site, which we see in the laboratory setting and in creating modifications of viruses for enhancement and function, that furin cleavage site isn't really being split and causing the S2 and the S1 to split off in Omicron. Again, it's more of a common cold, it's a blessing. That's why we're not seeing all the effects. And to Dr. Rish's point, to Dr. Malone's point, absolutely right. We're seeing the behavior giving back immunity. Hallelujah. The mandates are now unnecessary because we have a new virus that really doesn't have the genetic potential to go bad. I've treated 400 patients. Not a single one's gone to the hospital. Not a single one's died. Half of those were elderly, comorbid, high risk. The only thing that's happened as an adverse reaction is I've lost a third of my business because insurance contracts have pulled away from me for unprofessional conduct for using these dangerous drugs, ivermectin, for the which my patients have had no adverse reactions. I've treated 500,000 patients or diagnosed 500,000 patients diagnostically in my career. I have not had one single complaint against me. I have 4 complaints against licenses in 4 different states for saving lives. So the adverse reaction from these drugs is being attacked for being a good doctor. That's the bad adverse reaction, and I know many of my colleagues on this panel as well. And to your point, Dr. Cariotti, they never define. Exactly. They threaten you, and it's this looming threat without definition. You're spreading misinformation. Oh, do cite the papers in which I am spreading misinformation. They will not define it. They will attack you. They will threaten you. They will put you in a state of fear and say, you can only do what we say, but don't save a life. And by the way, the vaccines are expired because Omicron is here. And now they still want to mandate them. So they threaten us and threaten us and threaten us, and we're hunted for caring and being compassionate and empathetic and wanting to help humanity. Thank you, Senator. And this is a challenge in terms of aggregating data. I saw a signal early on of certain viral conditions. Dr. Parks pointed out mechanisms. I noticed certain viruses increasing. Well, these same T cells, immune cells, keep cancers in check. So I do about 40,000 biopsies a year. I'm a busy pathologist, and I thought, gosh, I'm seeing more of this type of cancer, and this type of cancer, and this type of cancer. And so I've tried to talk to other laboratories and aggregate a bigger data set, which obviously these federal data sets are a very easy way to see that signal. Obviously, I've been canceled, I've been ridiculed, I've been maligned, et cetera, for saying so, but I've been observing it. And I can't deny observation. That's how science happens, initially through observation, then we confirm through hypothesis, experiment, and data. So yes, we're seeing it, and now when we travel with these groups and summits, I have oncologists, I have radiation oncologists, I am seeing an uptick in cancers, I'm seeing these odd, stable cancers take off like wildfires after the vaccines. It is happening. We need federal funding. The NIH isn't looking at this. Getting a grant to look at anything related to the vaccines is next to impossible because they're perfect, safe, and effective. So it's happening. My data is anecdotal. My observational group is significant, but we need additional studies to happen. And thank you to Tom for digging into
so I
what's
think
actually happening.
Call to address. Ryan, you know that the experimental data on the genome in P53 in BRCA, can you explain that to everyone?
Yeah, real quick. So we have genes in our body. We have mechanisms in our body. We have bad cells in our body every day. Our body says, oh, I can kill that, knock it off, you know, shakes hands with every cell. You're gone, you're a bad cell. There are genes, there are suppressor genes, P53, it's the guardian of our genome. There's another breast cancer gene, BRCA gene. We know that the spike protein binds to the receptors for these genes and can activate them. That is a mechanism of the spike protein. So putting this spike protein in the human body via a gene shot that is completely investigational, these are not approved, and to mandate something that's investigational that can bind to cancer-promoting